Hi, it's Bobby from milesbehindme.com. I just want to take a quick minute to show you how I handle seam failures in the Vibram FiveFingers. The seam failures in my shoes happen to occur pretty early on. I was at like 40 miles when my first seam opened up. I've learned a few lessons that, in general are going to keep your FiveFingers lasting longer for you, so I want to point those out to you. As well, I want to give you some tips on if you do get a seam that opens up, how I handle it. Because the way that I see it is, your typical running shoe, they may tell you to get out of at 300 miles or whatever the anecdote is. I totally agree that if a seam fails on this shoe at that range, that's perfectly acceptable then in terms of it being my running shoe, for lack of a better word. But the thing is, these don't offer support, completely pliable. That's why we choose them, right? It's an extension of your outer layer of skin, basically. So as long as I can repair them, I'm going to run in these shoes until my foot's falling out the bottom. But a couple of things I've learned to prevent seam failures along the way is when you're removing the shoe from your foot, don't pull on the toes to pull them off. Cusp the back, pop them off your heel, and slide them as a whole unit. Pulling on the toe, as you'll notice, it elongates this seam. One thing seams don't like is being sewn that way, is they tend to snap if you do that over a period of time. As well, you just got to watch. Me, I have a huge fat foot, and I'm not afraid to say it. And I squeeze a sock in here. For trails, I put an additional layer of padding, which I've showed you in a previous video. There's just not a lot of room. So my seams tend to failure on the flexion points where I'm going to have a lot of bend from running up on my forefoot strike or even a midsole where I'm getting some flexion in those areas. So here's what it is. I had a seam open up recently right here on this one. You can see it is what it sounds like. It's an opening. These particular pair have several opens that I've repaired over time. I started with using nylon threads, very strong threads, and I would super glue the ends, and I found that really not necessary. This last one I did here on this shoe that I'm going to repair, I used just red cotton thread, and it's worked perfect. It's held up. It's been miles since I've repaired that shoe. So what you need is your shoes, obviously. Throw them in the washer before you handle it. If you're like me, they probably get pretty stank. You need needle and thread, so go rob in the closet, steal this from your wife, and we're going to go ahead and repair these. So first thing, thread the needle. Alright, so I've got my needle ready to go. I put a length of string on there. Better to be safe than sorry. Go longer than you think you're going to need. I have a pretty small opening I'm dealing with today. So here we go. We're going to deal with this failure that I just got yesterday. And as you can see, it is right here up against where in the Vibram it is glued into the sole portion, and it's opened up. Now what I want to point out is it's important, your entry into it, on this red one that I had open up, I started a 1/4 inch before the actual opening, and I've sewed through, for lack of a better term, a 1/4 inch after. I want to take the failure, I want to make it stronger before the failure, I want to sew the failure up and make it reinforced after as well. So what I do is I take this area and I start before, and one hand in the shoe, as you can see, buried. I took the strap. You want these things as loose as you can get them. So if you've got a KSO or Trek, or Trek, I don't know. I wouldn't be sewing a hide, but if you got this KSO version, loose strap, be able to get your hand in. And what you're going to do is just start sewing. And for our first one, we're going to take the needle and we're going to start from the inside. And we're just going to feed the needle, find the opening of our seam failure here. There we go. We're going to feed it up. We're going to pull it and leave about 2 inches on the inside. You can't see that obviously, but my hand on the inside is holding the thread down. And we're going to go real tight with the thread here and go back in. And now what I want to do is I want to pull both of these ends out. Let you see what I'm doing. I've tied the ends of the thread together just as if you're sewing anything. And I want to feed the needle through that loop. And that's my starting point. I want to cinch this thing down and have that nice and tight. Okay? and I've got my first seam started in there, my first sew, sorry, on this seam. So now I'm just going to do this process of feeding this hand in, and it can be a lengthy process. For bigger seams, it can take me 20 minutes. And I'm just going to do this, I don't know what they call it, because you know what, I think I failed home ec when we had to sew, but you're just going to go back into the place where you started, feel around for the needle head to come through, and you're going to feed it up. And we're just going to do this round stitch. I don't know if that's what you call it, but it seems adequate that you would go in one, out the other, and we're just pulling this seam back together. So I'm going to follow the series here and complete this seam. Alright, and there you go. I've got a finished closed seam that I put together here, and you know, I used red. I guess I stuck with the theme of this shoe. You can obviously, if you've got a black shoe, use black thread if you want to be more inconspicuous. But I mean, this shoe to me is my running shoe, and yeah, putting those wounds in it, those just come with the territory, I guess. So I've got some brown over here. I've got green on this opening here. It's just something I chose to do, but I hope you see that there's no reason these can't last you. I really don't even know 1,000 miles. I've got my repairs that have 160 plus miles on them, and I've had no issues. And these are the cotton thread repairs. So I see no reason why you can't just fix them yourself until you get a major failure, which I would consider to be the glue releasing from the fabric where it's sewn into the Vibram sole here. But until that day, I'm going to keep sewing them and I'm going to keep running in them. So yeah, I hope this helps you out. I hope if someone experiences a seam failure, they realize it's not the end of the world, and if you've got 10 minutes of time, you can repair that. I would say repair it early. Don't let it run rampant and open all the way up till it's getting underneath the glue or anything. Close it up early. Your repairs are probably going to be better than the original even was sewed up to be. So, but again, I hope you found this helpful. Thank you.